And this virus scare is bad enough without the media making it worse. Here's Channel 7 on the weekend.
Medical professionals say they'll reach breaking point if the number of positive cases keeps rising.
And to illustrate this scare, Channel 7 showed a ward crowded with people very sick from the virus. But it's strange, I've seen that ward before with the same doctors, same patient, same picture on the back wall, that little blue dot. In fact, that ward you saw is one in Bergamo in Italy at the height of the coronavirus crisis there, presented as an Australian one. See, that ward Channel 7 showed could not be an Australian one because just yesterday a health official said our own ICU units, even in Victoria, were 82% full and not just from virus patients, so plenty of spare capacity. But the hysteria. I mentioned yesterday how the ABC was now on a crusade to make people wear face masks, with the ABC's breakfast TV crew posing outside in their own, outside where you don't actually catch this virus, calling people who doubted these masks help much anti-vaxxers too. So what a surprise this morning to see the whole ABC crew without their masks and indoors as well, where you are, in fact, most likely to get infected. Joining me is Gerard Henderson, columnist with The Australian, head of the Sydney Institute and author of the Media Watchdog blog. Gerard, you pointed this out to me. Why no masks, Gerard, indoors? Are they anti-vaxxers?
Well, I guess so. Look, I watched your program last night, so I got up this morning and thought, well, it would be nice to see Michael Roldan and Lisa Miller in their masks. And I was absolutely shocked. I thought, Michael, I thought would make a pretty good Zorro. And as to Ms. Miller, I'm not quite so sure. But I just thought that if you were going to say that if you don't wear your mask outside, you're an anti-vaxxer, then if you don't wear a mask inside, surely you're more than an anti-vaxxer. You're a very bad anti-vaxxer.
Granny killer.
So again, it's this sort of... That's right. There's this huge double standard that what the crew at ABC News Breakfast is saying that they don't need to wear masks when they're on the job, but everyone else does. Now, I know that some of the ABC reporters in the United States and some American reporters themselves are wearing masks. So there's no reason why you can't wear a mask and do a television program at breakfast. So Michael Rowland and co, they say that everyone else should wear masks, outside and inside, but when they're inside, they don't have to.
No, so very keen to call people anti-vaxxers, people like me,
Yeah.
Even though I don't oppose wearing masks. I'm not sure how much good it'll do if people don't do it right. One Melbourne guy known as Big Al, Gerard, is taking this mask wearing very much to heart, or at least to his head. He's posted pictures of himself shopping in Melbourne with the best he could find, a G-string on his head. He walked around with it for a while now. I'm not sure it'll take off, Gerard, and I don't recommend it for you or me. But back to the ABC. It is so in favour of big government edicts like, wear your mask or close stuff down. Here is ABC host Fran Kelly talking to former Chief Medical Officer Paul Kelly.
Now, I mean, you talk about the meat works, it seems as though it's very difficult to stop the spread of a virus in a workplace like that. Should they be, or most of them, be shut down for a while? In advance, I mean.
Well, we need to consider what is the risk and what is proportionate to that. We do need to eat, Fran. So if people don't have food, that would also be a problem.
Apologies, I just mislabelled. It's the acting deputy, acting chief medical officer, whatever. He hasn't quit. It was the guy before that quit. What did you make of that? Let's just, the suggestion from Fran Kelly, let's just preemptively close down all meatworks. Bang. Just like that.
Well, it's extraordinary. I was listening to that program, and there you have the acting chief medical officer having to tell one of the ABC's most prominent presenters that people need to eat, and people need to eat, many people need to eat meat. They need protein and whatever. So it was an extraordinary conversation. What you've got there is, it's not just Ms. Kelly, it's many of them. So many ABC presenters are urging a total lockdown, but I've never heard before locking down food processing units. I mean, this is quite extraordinary. The idea that Dr. Kelly's got to tell Ms. Kelly that people need to eat is extraordinary. It just shows how limited her world is. It's extraordinarily limited, and I don't think it's good for public broadcasting or commercial broadcasting if presenters' broadcasting programs live in such a limited world where they can't even think such propositions through. That if you're going to shut things down, it's going to affect people, and the more you shut down, the more it's going to affect. And once you get to shutting down food processing, it becomes extremely serious. But Fran Kelly, on the basis of not a major outbreak, as I understand in Victoria, is urging the Chief Medical Officer to shut down a meatworks and perhaps other meatworks as well. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, well, and all these people can lose their jobs. They're only meat workers, but meanwhile, the ABC sails through without $1 cut as a consequence of this virus panic. You know, and complain when they've got to make efficiencies. Complain. One more example from the ABC, which is going the full mask fascist from the drum.
But it's more than just the scientific advice. It is fair to say, Vion, that not everyone in Melbourne supports the order to wear masks out in public. This is Victorian Liberal MP Tim Smith.
When we do these things, you end up with an unsolvable problem that hasn't been solved in libraries full of books and philosophy. And we're not going to get the solution from Tim Smith, that's for sure.
Well, I just think this thing that Tim Smith and others are doing is incredibly indulgent. Like, who doesn't want to be a good citizen?
Gee, I seem to be spending most of the evening apologising. We should have run Tim Smith, the Liberal frontbencher, saying, why should I wear a mask when I'm just walking alone in the street, affecting nobody, or driving alone in a car? Well, in fact, you don't have to wear a mask driving alone in the car, but you do if you're walking out in the open, in God's own paradise, in Victoria, without a mask. I mean, this is just crazy. Why is the ABC jumping on him for saying that?
Well, it's this authoritarian notion that they know best. Now, as I understand it, and I saw the program, Tim Smith was essentially saying that, you know, he didn't use this example, but if you're a 25-year-old fit woman in Box Hill North walking your dog, you shouldn't have to wear a mask. But he conceded that if you're in an office or certainly conceded if you're in public transport, maybe you should. That's a perfectly reasonable proposition. But he's dressed down. He's accused of engaging in culture wars by the presenter, Ellen Fanning. He's then accused of not caring for others and being selfish by a panellist, and another panellist has a swing too. And all he's simply saying is if you're walking your dog on a quiet Sunday morning, perhaps you don't need to have a mask on. But this is now something that shouldn't be said. It's quite extraordinary. I mean, it's kind of authoritarian attitude that people who believe in high taxes, who believe in strong government, who then want to support any kind of advance of the government. Now, in New South Wales, this is not required. I understand why in parts of Victoria it would be required. I'm like you. I'm not against masks, but I mean there is a rational view that you don't need to wear them all the time, and walking a dog by yourself is probably one of those reasons, and it's certainly not something immoral or reprehensible for Tim Wilson, who's a very effective Liberal politician down in Victoria, as I notice, making this point. It's perfectly reasonable. He ought to be able to make it.
That's true.
But the ABC wants to silence opposition. You have so many programs now, increasingly, where everyone agrees with everyone else and everyone's castigating someone with whom they don't agree, and that's called debate. It's not debate, it's just monopoly, and it's boring.
But what do you think it is, Gerard? This instinctive desire to back big government measures, including ones that the science backing them is not quite there, and that includes whether it's this or global warming or whatever. What is it about the ABC that's so statist like that?
Well, I think it's more a matter of self-righteousness. It's the self-righteousness of those who regard themselves as the ideologically chosen. The view that their morality is higher than the morality of others. Therefore, they have a right to lecture people about how these people should behave because their behaviour is not consistent with the view of the ABC person who thinks they should behave in another way. Now, I think it's essentially this moral righteousness is essentially the problem, and then therefore it goes to support any kind of intervention by a left of centre or a social democratic government who wants to bring in further reforms. I think that's essentially it, but it's not new. It's authoritarian thought, but it's becoming more pervasive than it was, say, 10 or 20 years ago.
I know, now it's backed by taxpayer money as well. Gerard Henderson, thank you so much indeed for your time. Fight the fight, Gerard. Thank you so much.
Here we go.